Hello, it's 10 p.m. in Accra, 11 p.m. in Casablanca, and midnight in Copenhagen. This is News at 10. Wherever you're watching us from, we're live on TV3 and on 3FM 92.7. You can also follow us live on our Facebook page around the world. Let's take a look at today's major news highlights. The minority in Parliament wants a bipartisan probe into circumstances that led to the collapse and subsequent takeover of UT and Capital banks by GCB Bank. The minority says they smell something fishy in the whole purchase and acquisition deal, hence the call for the bipartisan investigations. Meanwhile, management of GCB Bank has confirmed about 40% of staff of UT and Capital Bank will go home. This is as a result of ongoing restructuring exercise. And over 200 illegal banker-to-banker operators are being registered by the National Lottery Authority to acquire operational license. The authority says about 500 more illegal operators will be registered by the close of the year. And in Sierra Leone, President Ernest Bai Koroma appeals for international support to deal with humanitarian emergency after mudslide kill hundreds. Those are our major news highlights. Remember, you can follow us live on our Facebook page and on 3news.com. You can also hear us on 3FM 92.7. Up next is a big one. Welcome. Now, management of GCB Bank has confirmed that about 40% of staff of UT and Capital banks will go home. This is as a result of an ongoing restructuring exercise.
The managing director of GCB Bank, Ray Soa, said the restructuring exercise has commenced and it might affect contract and managers of the two banks, UT and Capital.
As we continue with the integration process, we will review all the current positions and situations against the planned strategy, organizational structure, and staffing requirements of the expanded GCB Bank for right sizing. As a result, some jobs may eventually be affected, but we shall take steps to ensure we minimize the adverse impact.
Management of GCB Bank commended the Bank of Ghana for reposing confidence in GCB to take over, in line with the rule and best practices of the regulator. The lead for the UT Bank transaction, Samuel Sapon, had this to say.
I would like to assure all the customers of the erstwhile UT Bank that they are welcome to GCB Bank, and we'll make sure we exceed their expectations and end their business. So they should keep their monies with us. They shouldn't rush. There shouldn't be any issues in terms of their deposits not being safe, and they should run to withdraw the monies, but their monies are safe.
Socrates Afram is the lead for the Capital Bank transaction.
We see opportunity for growth. And that opportunity for growth can only come when you have the customers on board. And when you have the customers on board, you grow their businesses. That's the only time we can realize our strategic objectives.
And in a related development, GC Bank Managing Director Raymond Soa has indicated the takeover of UT and Capital banks had to be done in a hurry due to the sensitivity of the matter. Speaking at a press conference in Accra, Raymond Soa, however, said although the bank's shareholders were not contacted before the decision, that can be done post-acquisition?
We have a lot of shareholders, respected shareholders. We could not say that we're going to conduct an AGM or an EGM to ask this question. This is something that we can deal with post-assumption. I believe that is what Bank of Ghana said.
Right, Senor Jabing is a labor expert. He's joining us on Skype now for a conversation on this. Senor, good evening and thank you. We're grateful that you could join us. So quickly, we want to know what you will say about this over 900 workers of the defunct UT and Capital Bank. Would you say that they risk going home?
Well, so as you have reported, about 40% of them are estimated to be the affected workers who may not be retained. And so it's a number we can look at and we can start working with.
Right, I think that the network is unstable. Senor, so if you can hear me, we lost you slightly along the line, but the Ghana Commercial Bank, GCB Bank, has given the indication that it will conduct some skill assessment of UT and Capital Bank staff. You are in the field as a labor expert. What really would you say this means? Is it a strategy to send off those, or you think it's a fair reevaluation and assessment of the workforce following the takeover?
It's basically a standard process that necessarily must happen. A workforce rationalization process would normally involve mapping jobs to existing positions. So in view of the restructuring, there would be established positions that would have to be looked at, and then qualified and competent employees are going to be matched to those jobs. Now, it is only when all those jobs have been mapped and they are duly filled that we would know the specific number of employees who may not be retained. This exercise is important because it is the only way you are able to get the specific number of people who would have to be exited under the circumstances.
And when we spoke to Mr. Soa, he did indicate that the takeover had to be done hurriedly because of the sensitivity of the matter, making it difficult or almost impossible for stakeholders and staff of the defunct bank and GCB both to be informed. Legally, is this right or wrong?
Well, I do not think that the process can be faulted legally, because definitely the entire transaction had to be communicated one way or the other. If it was done this hurriedly, all we can say is that it could have been done better, but still employees and other stakeholders have been notified, both by the central bank, the regulator, as well as the GCB management. And I believe in the coming days, more clarification is going to be made on aspects of the transaction and the way forward. So I think that it has already happened. We can only look forward and make sure that going forward, the necessary processes and procedures that must be put in place to make sure that there's openness, there's fairness, and there's good faith for everybody are put into effect. Okay, so that everybody will be happy.
So in a layoff of this dimension or kind, what sort of compensation would you say the staff will deserve or will be due them, and what will be the modalities or conditions for setting these compensation benchmarks?
Great. So I can, from the top of my head, identify a few factors. that would go into the determination of a severance package, for example. So you are looking at the length of service of an employee. You are looking at seniority in terms of grading. You are looking at the context of the kind of work the employee does, and a few other factors that will come to play. So in calculating the severance pay, all of these factors will be put in place, and a formula, an acceptable formula agreeable to both parties, will be determined, and then the payment and the terms of payment can be agreed and executed. So those are some of the basic factors that would go into that.
And these terms, the severance, are they in such a way that the staff who are laid off will take their money and go, or will take the money and then the company over time will maybe disburse the severance in periods? Let's say you take 1 month this month, you take another next month, or I mean, what is the standard?
Yeah, so it depends on the exit negotiation or redundancy negotiation agreement that is signed between the parties. Sometimes it is paid in bulk, other times it is spread over time, depending on the capacity of the employer to pay and also to pay on time. So that aspect of the negotiation process is the terms of payment. So the terms of payment, that is how the payment is going to be made, would be negotiated as well and agreed between the parties. So if GCB, for example, has all the money and can pay everybody, then they would say we would pay by this particular time, the agreed compensation package. Otherwise, they can spread it over 6 months, they can spread it over 3 months, or however they agree to pay it off.
Right, Senor Ejabeng, we're grateful for your time. Thank you very much. Senor Ejabeng is a labor expert, and this is News at 10. We're live on 3FM 92.7 as well, and you can follow us around the world on our Facebook page. We have more news for you. Welcome down. The minority in Parliament wants a bipartisan probe into circumstances that led to the collapse and subsequent takeover of UT and Capital Banks by GCB Bank. The minority says they smell something fishy in the whole purchase and acquisition deal, hence the call for the bipartisan investigation.
The minority at a press conference in Accra also wanted top managers of the two banks dealt with in case they are found culpable of any wrongdoing.
We need to be aware the actions and inactions of members or the management of the bank that resulted in this action.
The Bank of Ghana has already begun investigating the two banks and hinted of sanctions against the managers if they are found to have engaged in any wrongdoing. But the minority wants more to be done.
We don't want them to probe issues and keep it under the carpet. We think that all of us must be involved. We are asking that bipartisan probe be conducted on this matter.
The former Deputy Finance Minister Kesa Lato-Forson accused the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, of making public a leaked report on the state of commercial banks in 2016, which he says was classified information.
I thought it was overly unfair, and obviously what you should understand is that it was a draft statement of which further works was done and a final report was given to the central bank. But I will still challenge him that since he now has the actual information, can he inform this republic how many banks are threatened?
They also cautioned the central bank to strengthen supervisory and monitoring responsibilities. The minority further wants the finance minister and the governor of the central bank, Dr. Ernest Addison, in Parliament to give assurances that depositors will not suffer losses.
Martin Pebo is a private legal practitioner, and he spoke earlier on News 360 on the call by the minority for a bipartisan probe.
At what point does the board of the bank exercise their discretion without consulting the shareholders in taking a critical decision as this that affects the overall operations and direction of the bank, even though they have a fiduciary relationship?
So far, from the facts that have been played out in the media, okay, this is the matter that without doubt would require the approval of the shareholder. So to be candid, it's difficult to understand how the MD of GC Bank would say that they don't need the approval of shareholders to undertake that purchase and assumption agreement. No, you see, GCB is one entity, and then UT and also Capital are different entities. So before you take over the assets, okay, the directors, okay, there is the Companies Act, okay, mandate them to have recourse to the shareholders to take over the assets of another entity. It's a monumental decision, very, very significant. So there's no way that an MD could properly say that a board of directors can take such a decision without recourse to the shareholders.
But so lawyer, even if they actually decide to do it after they have actually taken the decision, because that's what they're saying, that even though they did not consult them before the acquisition, they're going to do that post-acquisition. Does that violate any specific aspect of the company law, even though there is a fiduciary relationship, they are representing and acting in utmost faith for on behalf of the shareholders?
Yeah. You see, let's look at, if you talk about fiduciary relationships, we are talking about section 200, specifically 203 of the Act, okay? The fiduciary relationship doesn't mean that the directors can usurp the powers of the shareholder. You see, taking over the assets of another entity is a purchase. You are buying, okay? And to buy, you would need the authorization of the shareholder. You see, if what they were taking were things that are incidental to the functioning of, what do you call it, of GCB stuff, something like they are buying fuel, they are buying furniture for the branches and the rest, then that one they have authorization. But to take over the assets of another entity, which is a competitor, don't forget UT and Capital Bank are also in the same line of business, okay? So you know what you see, maybe it's a PR matter. The MD would have been better off saying that, oh, maybe they don't have comments now. They would come back at the appropriate time. You see, some of these things, it's not everything that an MD should talk about in times like this. So let me tell you, quite frankly, what is at stake here is that the Bank of Ghana is taking a practical measure, okay, to make sure that these deposits of our fellow citizens are secure, whilst it takes steps to obey certain company law rules. But the truth of the matter is that the statement that the GCB board could take such a decision without recourse to shareholders is unsustainable. Legally, it is not.
And almost all public universities, apart from 3, have submitted their proposed fees to the Minister of Education to be forwarded to Parliament for approval. The Public Accounts Committee has, however, directed the ministry to submit the list of the specific institutions that have complied in order to take further action against them.
This came to light at the Public Accounts Committee sitting when the Education Minister appeared before it. The minister was invited together with heads of some public boards, corporations and statutory institutions to answer questions pertaining to findings of the Auditor General's report for the year ending December 2015. It was revealed during the discussions that GIMPA has never sought parliamentary approval for fees.
Issue is, was there ever any approval granted by this August House with respect to the fees you charged prior to receiving this directive?
No, we haven't had any such approvals from Parliament.
The sector minister intervened.
Apart from a few, about 3, have submitted and we have transmitted to the Ministry of Finance so that they can bring it to special budget.
I don't think that you want to tell the committee how we should do our work.
No, I'm just pleading.
Then simple take the directive from the chair of the committee that supply us, the committee, with a list of all the investees with the exception of the 3. In fact, add the 3 that and indicate that they have not complied.
Meanwhile, the committee has directed the Auditor General to audit the internal control systems of the National Accreditation Board and the Ghana Institute of Journalism. Several petitions have been made against the National Accreditation Board, according to the Minister of Education, due to poor control systems.
I'm not happy at all. So, Chairman, since I became the Minister of Education, if there's one institution a lot of petitions have come against on internal controls, it's the NAB. Maybe we should let the auditors go specifically to do some more work and give us a better report.
Members of the committee said most of the questions put to the board were poorly answered.
We were given 3 specific questions from this committee to answer. So most of these questions are coming to me as a surprise.
When the report is out and submitted to Parliament, try as much as possible and get a copy.
For GIJ, there were issues to do with disparities in allowances of lecturers and workers. The chairman therefore directed that both GIJ and the National Accreditation Board be further audited.
And Star Ghana has awarded an 11 million Ghana cedis grant to 20 organizations. A beneficiary, TV3 Network Limited, a subsidiary of the Media General Group, will use the funding to increase media responsibility and influence change.
Hello, good evening, and it's thanks for staying with us on News 360. It's time now for Mission.
She is unfazed with the presence of 2 male candidates and has vowed to win the seat.
This is not the first time TV3 is receiving funding from Star Ghana. Under a similar project, sectors such as education and health were covered extensively to expose and bring to fore the attention of government. TV3's excellent execution of that contract enhanced its chances of again benefiting from the funding under this project.
I'm most grateful to TV3 and mostly Esebini Wanyami and her team.
Star Ghana, a multi-donor pooled funding mechanism partnered by European Union, the DFID, the NIDA and the USAID, seeks to increase influence of civil society organizations. TV3 Network, a subsidiary of Media General Group, has over the years put pressure on government, traditional authorities and private enterprises to undertake their responsibilities. The chairperson of the funding committee, Nick Lee, encouraged media organizations to take risk and be innovative in getting the public to engage effectively on issues that affect them.
That we're spending, and we need to make sure that that money is used for the purposes it was intended and that it delivers value for money. That's very important to me as a UK taxpayer, but it's also very important because that's also really important for the people of Ghana.
A steering committee member, Dr. Esther Abwaji, said the widening inequality in society must be focused by the project.
Having committed yourselves to this, we can expect your efforts to exact performance on policy commitments. We can expect that you would even help us to create better awareness among the citizenry of what these commitments are.
Ibrahim Tanko Amidu is the program's director of Star Ghana.
Not everybody is benefiting from the development, and so the focus of this call is to see how do we ensure that those sections of the population who are being left out are supported to also be part, to have a voice on decision making, to be able to ensure accountability and responsiveness to their issues.
And government will soon establish a commission of inquiry to begin the process leading to the creation of additional regions. This was revealed by President Akufo-Addo after he received the Council of State's recommendation on the proposals to create the regions at the Flagstaff House.
The creation of additional regions in the Northern, Bono Ahafo, Western and the Volta regions was one of the key messages by the NPP during the 2016 election campaign. The Council of State, at its second official meeting with the President since its inauguration, gave the green light for the creation of the regions after weeks of studying and reviewing proposals submitted by the Sector Minister Dan Botwe.
Having studied the petition submitted and the detailed briefing by the Honorable Minister for Regional Reorganization and Development, it is of the unanimous opinion that there is a substantial demand for the creation of new regions in the country.
President Akufo-Addo commended the effort and the efficiency of the council, promising to immediately expedite action.
I think that matters like this are matters that ought to be determined with dispatch so that the body politic of Ghana can gain from stability and knowing exactly what is the next step ahead of us. I don't intend to dally too long about the composition of the Council of the Commission of Inquiry. I think very soon you'll hear about the next steps that we're taking. And by constitutional instrument, we'll set up the Commission of Inquiry and frame the terms of reference, which are relatively straightforward to do.
Meanwhile, the Council has also recommended the Assembly Press be returned to Parliament to enhance its work after meeting leadership of the legislature.
And that's it for News at 10. Thank you very much for making time. And those who left your dial on 3FM 92.7, thank you for leaving your dial there. On behalf of the crew here, good night.